We have with us Dr. Tabitha Thurai, Assistant Professor of Commerce from Madras Christian College. Today's topic of discussion is scientific writing for publication. Dr. Tabitha Thurai is a UGC set qualified and approved MPhil and PhD guide from University of Madras. She has completed 5 PhD thesis, seven. Of course, students have completed PhD under her. One has submitted thesis and 4 research scholars is currently pursuing under her. And 7 of her MPhil students has successfully completed their course under Dr. Tabitha Thurai. She has organized many FDPs and seminars. Her area of research or area of specialization includes organizational behavior, human resource, marketing, and financial management. It is an interdisciplinary with psychology and commerce. Uh, Addition to her post as assistant professor of commerce, she has been as dean research and development Madras Christian College, associate dean and research development earlier to become a dean. She was assistant coordinator of social ethics program. She was a president of staff study circle, a member of examination committee of the institution. She is associated with other reputed institutions as member of board of examination of Lila College, Stella Maris, and Vivekananda College, member board of studies of Christian Institute of Management, member research advisory committee of Martin Luther Christian University, University of Shillong. She is a content editor of Everon Education Limited. She is a reviewer of Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services published by Elsevier. She has around 50 to 60 papers published in reputed journals, and she has attended many conferences in national and international level, and she has been awarded Best Paper Award in most of her conferences, and she has received a lot of cash prizes, like around cash prize of 15,000 for her paper Tax Literacy of Salaried Working Class in Indian Population Median, an empirical study. which is presented in the National Seminar on Direct and Indirect Tax Law held at Meenakshi College for Women. And she has been a resource person to many institutions. She has published 2 books, which is a study material on basic marketing for Christian Institute of Management and a study material on human resource for Christian Institute of Management. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking out your time to address our faculty members, and over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dr. Deepa for giving me this opportunity to be here with you. I'd also like to thank Dr. Lakshmi, with whom I was in touch with in organizing this program. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the management of the college for organizing such seminars. I think it's very vital and it's a very important step that you're taking to educate the faculty members to, to upskill and to educate them. So let me start off. Let me share my screen. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So I'm not here as an expert. I wouldn't say I'm here as an expert, but I would say that I'm here just to share my learnings, whatever I have learned, what I have gained over a period of time. I would be happy to share my learnings with you. And the topic for today's discussion is scientific writing for publication. So many times, we do research, we conduct our research, we spend a lot of time on it, but then it comes to sitting and writing things. Now, some of us are very good at writing, but some of us find it difficult. We write at different points of time. We don't sit and write in one day. We write over a period of time. So there is no continuity. So many issues come up. So I just hope that the next 45 to 50 minutes would give you all an brief understanding. It's a very vast topic, and I would not be able to complete in an hour, but I would just give you a very, very brief overview of what is scientific writing. And I would like to challenge the faculty members over here. If you have done some kind of a research, if you can, after this talk, if you can start writing, I can assure you that in a week's time, you will be able to complete a paper. So I'd like to throw that challenge open to the faculty. If you can follow some of the steps, I would challenge you that you can easily write a paper in 1 week. So that's a challenge I'm going to give you before we start off. So what is manuscript writing? We're going to see what we're going to look into today. Why publish? What to publish? There are different articles you can write. We'll just go through this very briefly. Now, as teachers, there is this one big question that all of us have. I'm a teacher. I'm working here to teach. Why should I do research? So there is this question. So some would say, research is not my cup of tea. I would not like to do research, or I'm not interested in research. I'm only a teacher. But today we need to bring in a balance between teaching and research. Are we able to bring that balance? The balance between teaching and research is learning. So what happens, we as a teacher, we need to learn every day to present our classes, the presentations that we do in our class, the topics we prepare. A teacher has to every day keep learning. What we do in research is that we also learn. So when you do a little bit of research and when you teach, you can be a better teacher when you have done some amount of research. So if there's someone here who says that, no, I'm not interested in research, I would like you to rethink, give it a shot. It's not so bad. It is just a learning process. So why research? Why do we actually do research? These are some points. I would not go through everything. I think most of us would know what is research, but why do we have to do research? We do research to gain some kind of a familiarity with something that is new. So if you're going to take an old topic and do a research paper on it, it's not going to be of value. So how do you bring in value in your research? If you can think of something new, something completely new. You can take an old topic. So, say for example, in commerce, we have topics like customer satisfaction, or we have recruitment practices, or we have performance appraisal. These are all very old topics. But can we bring in a twist? Can we bring in something new? Can we bring in novelty into our research? So, when we think of writing a research paper, there has to be something new. There has to be a new aspect. It could be with the sample, it could be with the methodology, it could be in one particular variable. Something new, there has to be novelty in your research. But why publish? Today, if you see as colleges, as faculty, I think we are bombarded with NAC. The IQAC department is bombarding every faculty. They're asking for documentation, they're asking for paper presentation, conferences. Are you attending? Oh, these are the questions that are constantly coming up. So, as teachers, we are now forced to publish. We are forced to give papers. And there is UGC care. But on the other hand, there are those predatory journals that are there. We are paying money and we are publishing. All this, and then what happens after we publish? UGC removes it, UGC Care removes it from the list. And then the college does not recognize it. So all these issues are there. But why should we publish? It is academic advancement. When you publish more papers as faculty, once you're in a job, how do you grow up the ladder? It is by slowly publishing papers. It is not very quickly. It is not through cloned and predatory journals, but very slow but steady growth will be there if you publish papers. If you're a research scholar, if you're doing your PhD part-time, it is a mandatory requirement. Yes, there is a UGC press release that has come out saying that they are going to do away with paper publications, but the University of Madras has still not advocated that news release. So we have to wait for that. So until then, we have to publish papers. It is sharing of information. You're documenting your knowledge, whatever knowledge you have gained, you document it. It develops a particular discipline. That is, if you are bringing in some new concept in a particular field, when you do research, you bring in something new. You develop that particular discipline. It also becomes a recognition for your scholarly work. So whatever work you're doing, it is a recognition. When you say you have published 5 papers, when you say you have published 1 paper in a Scopus journal, if you say you have published 1 paper in a Web of Science journal, it is a recognition. Also, it becomes a permanent record. So today, if you go online, if you go into Google and if you type in your papers, it is there, it is available. So it becomes a permanent record. It also helps you improve your writing skills, because when we write, we are using different words, we use synonyms, we try to write better. So what happens is our vocabulary increases, we learn new ways of writing, the way we communication skills would also improve. But what are the problems faced? What are the problems that we face? I'm just going to sum up all the problems that you see over here. Many a times, we do not have an interaction with the industry. We are purely academic. We deal with our syllabus only. We deal with our textbook only, but we do not have any connection with the industry. There is a lack of academia industry connect. So we do not know what is actually happening in the industry. Though we talk about recruitment practices, we don't know what kind of recruitment is happening. We talk about employee motivation, but what is exactly happening in the corporate world, we are not aware of. So some problems are that we do not have a connect with the industry. We do not know what is happening out there. So for which I think we need to upskill ourselves as researchers, as faculty members. We need to keep in touch with what is happening in the industry. Now, what are the tools that are required for research? This may sound like a very serious slide, but actually, you first need to be curious. You should be somebody who's able to ask the question why. Why is something happening? Why is somebody not happy with their work? Why is this superior not able to advise the junior? Why is a particular work environment not suitable? Your ability to ask the question why is important. You need a library and its resources. Today, library, you don't have to go to a library. Everything is available online. A computer is very useful today. Most of us are having our entire world in our mobile phones. So we do need access to a computer. We need a questionnaire. We need good analytical and writing skills. So we coming to our topic, which is scientific writing. At this moment, I'm assuming that you have identified a problem, you have prepared a questionnaire, you have distributed it, you have collected data, you have used some kind of a statistical analysis, and you have done your analysis. So now we need to start writing the paper. So it is from this stage that I would like to challenge you all that you could write a paper in a week from this stage. That is, if you have collected your data, analyzed it, and you're ready to start writing, very easily you can finish writing the paper. Ma'am, are you all there? I don't hear any sound, so are you all there? You can stop me
Ma'am.
anytime in between. If you would like to, you could stop me anytime in between if there is any question.
Yes, ma'am. We are in line with you.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks. So, what is manuscript writing? Okay. What is a manuscript? Any piece of work that is given for publishing. When you give it to an editor to publish your work, it is called a manuscript. So, in a manuscript, we need to organize our ideas logically. We have to furnish enough information, and we need to present it nicely. So when I was preparing for this presentation, I had to work extra on the slide. I had to choose the color, the background, the font size, and everything. So not just your content, but how you present it is also important, and that's what we're going to see today. But before you start writing, the first advice I would give you is you have to choose the journal where you're going to go and publish it. So once you've chosen the journal, now this I have taken Elsevier's journal, you will find one piece of information that every journal will give you, which is article structure. Okay, every journal will have a different kind of a structure. That is the way you write, the format, the table of contents. Every journal will have a different structure. So you need to go to that journal, check their structure, and then you have to write. So this is a kind of a disclaimer that I am giving you, that you can you will have to check the article structure before you start writing. Now, coming into the sections of a manuscript. Now, what I'm going to do here today, share with you, is what is mostly accepted by most journals. Most of the journals accept this. So you could safely follow this. The first section consists of title, authors, an abstract, and then keywords. The second part consists of the introduction, the methods, results, and discussion and conclusion. So this is your core part. Section 2 is the core part of your research paper. And then you have section 3, which is acknowledgements, references, any annexures, that is your questionnaire, all these things you can add in section 3. So basically, this is your manuscript. And we're going to look into each of this one by one. So most journals follow this particular structure. It's called the IMRAD structure. That is, we are looking into this core section 2. Okay, we'll do section 2 first, and then I'll come to section 1 and 3, because section 2 is your core part of your manuscript. Now, this follows an IMRAD structure. This was brought out by the American National Standards Institute way back in 1979. But most journals accepted this particular structure: introduction, methods, results, and discussion. In between introduction and methods, we have literature review, and towards the end, we have conclusion. So let's go one by one. So this would be the order of your manuscript. You begin with your title, abstract, you give your keywords, then you have introduction and all that. So this is the order of your manuscript. But the order of your preparation should be completely different. Now, this is where most of us make a mistake. So what do? When we start writing a research paper, we think, okay, what is this? What is the title? Let me start with the title. You cannot start with the title. So let's see what should be the order of preparation. You begin with material and methods. Okay, now material and methods, we commonly call it analysis and interpretation, or research methodology. Research methodology, where we talk about the sample, our data collection methods, the sampling technique that you're using. All of that would be your materials and methods. This will be followed by discussion. Okay, now what is discussion? Discussion is your interpretation. We have analysis and interpretation. So discussion here refers to your interpretation. We have to write the conclusion, and then you come and write the introduction. Okay, so if you see here, there is a complete change in the way we have to start writing the manuscript. We do not start with the title. After this, you go to write the abstract, you write some keywords, and then you fix the title. But what happens many times, because we start with the title has nothing to do with the methods, the title has nothing to do with the findings of the study. There is a big mix up. Okay, so this is the order in which you can prepare a manuscript. We have fully references. Every paper would have references. I'm sure you would have different topics on maybe plagiarism and all that would have been discussed. So you have to use references when you're writing a manuscript. Now let's go one by one. Remember the IMRAD structure. Okay, so in the IMRAD structure, the first one is introduction. Though I said we write introduction in the end, I'm just going to follow this order. So what do we write in the introduction section? The introduction gives a background to your research topic. What is the topic that you're writing? Now, suppose you have chosen a topic on online education. So what is the background to it? COVID. So you can start by saying that, there was COVID in 2020, the lockdown happened, the schools had to close down, and so we all went into online education. So this is the background that you have to give to that topic. So let's see here. What is the research question? Do you have adequate reviews? So every statement you write in a manuscript should not be your own words. It should be backed by reviews. So you will give references, you will give citations, you will give even you write. So do you have adequate reviews? So you should have done your literature review, you should have saved it and kept before you start writing. But what do? We keep Word open, and then we open Google, and then we start copying and pasting into the content. So if we do that, it's not going to be successful. So we need to have adequate reviews done before we start writing. The reviews that you have collected, are they current reviews? So are you talking about 2020 news? Because so much has happened. 2020, the year 2020 is so different from the year 2018. Even just 2 years ago, everything has changed. So when we are giving reviews, references, it has to be current, it has to be relevant, it also has to be accurate. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a very simple technique of writing, which is called a scaffolding. Okay, a scaffolding simply means steps. I'm giving you now 6 steps. So possibly you could take a screenshot of this 6 steps or 6 paragraphs to write an introduction. Okay, only 6 paragraphs you need to write. Now, what are those 6 paragraphs? Firstly, background or context. So, for example, if you're going to talk about COVID, you can just give a background over there. What is your research problem? What is the statement of your research problem? So, when you're writing a research paper, you would just have one issue. You would be addressing one issue. So, what is the statement of your research problem? What is its significance? Why is it important? What is the importance? What is the research question or your hypothesis? If there are any hypothetical statements, what is the hypothesis? What is your objective? And what are the implications? So, implications would be managerial implications, it could have an institutional implication. What are the implications? So, a very simple way to write your introduction, 6 paragraphs. Now, let me give you an example here. So, this here is a research paper. They have just written an introduction, but if you read it a little closely, you will notice the 6 paragraphs that I have told you, they have just put it down over there. So, you see a background, the statement, what is the research problem? What is the problem that is there today? Why is it important? What is the research question? What is the objective of this research paper? What are the implications? And here they have included some limitations also. So when you're writing an introduction, you need to use a funnel down approach. A funnel down approach meaning from a broader area, you bring it down to a very, very, very specific area. So from what is known, the background, you go to the unknown, and then you identify the research gap. So all of this would feature in the introduction. So how long should your introduction be? Introduction can be 1.5 pages, maybe 1.5 pages to 2 pages maximum, only 6 paragraphs. Your introduction part is done. So what is your introduction? It gives you a background to the study. It tells you what is the research gap. How did you identify the research gap? What is the objective or goal of the study? And if there is a hypothesis, some key references. If there is a particular theoretical model, you can include that. And if there are any new terms, definitions, all of that can also be brought in. So the first chapter is done, introduction. Let's go to the second part of your manuscript. The second part is called methods. In methods, you would talk about how you conducted the study. So let's see here some points that you need to keep in mind before you write this particular section. Okay, you need to describe the method that you used with references. So, for example, if you're going to use a particular interview method, then you need to give references that this particular interview method can be used in such a study. You can describe new methods if you're using any particular new methods so that it can be reproduced. Someone else who sees your paper can use the same method that you have used. You need to state all your statistical tests. So you could say that all these particular tests have been used. You can use subheadings, and you need to use past tense, that is, it was done, how you had written it in the past. Okay. Now, for methods, so that was So what do you mean by a method? Okay, so when you say method, it could be your sampling technique, your research design. Okay, so you cite what literature reviews helped you identify that particular method. Who is your sample? The inclusion and exclusion criteria, meaning who all come into your sample, who all do not come into your sample. So this will give you some content to write. Instead of just saying my sample is IT employees, you can go a step further by saying that In IT employees, people belonging to this particular level or those with 5 years of tenure, only these people are included, or these people are not included. Okay, so you can specify that. Then you can also talk about some group characteristics. That is, what are the characteristics of that sample? So if you say IT employees, are you talking about maybe people who are working in night shifts, those who are working in projects? Okay, so you can talk about the group characteristics. Then, if there is any particular protocol that you have followed, for example, if you have conducted an interview method, you maybe you would go to that place, you may spend some time with them, you may explain the situation, and then ask them some questions. So then that method can be mentioned. And then, like I said, whatever statistical analysis that you're using, that can also be mentioned. Now, a scaffolding for the second section of your manuscript. Again, here you see 6 paragraphs to write this part of your manuscript. So the first part was introduction. There also you had 6 paragraphs. Now coming to the second part, methods and measures. Here also you have 6 steps or 6 paragraphs that you need to write. Going on to the third section. So this section on methods and measures is what we write as research methodology. Okay, we normally call it research methodology, but today in journals, in Scopus and Web of Science journals, they do not use the word research methodology. Instead, they use the IMRAD structure. In our Indian way of writing, in our University of Madras way of writing, we have different names that we give, which is introduction, review of literature, analysis and interpretation, and then conclusion. This is the usual format we follow, but index journals follow a different format. So the second part is methods and measures. Now coming to the third part, which is results and discussion. Now this would tell you what you have found from the study. Okay, what did you find? So you represent results from your research. Okay, representative results. That is, you don't put everything, don't put all the details. It should be very specific. You don't have to explain the table line by line. You need not explain. Just a glimpse of it can be given. So if there's too much of details, you can put your tables as supplementary materials. For example, even if you use a lot of statistics, your statistical tables can all be put in as supplementary materials at the end of your manuscript. You can use subheadings. It should be presented in the same order. I will explain this point later. Meaning, suppose you're having 2 objectives, objective 1 and objective 2. Then, when you give your results, the results should also be objective 1 and objective 2, not objective 2 first and then objective 1. There must be a logical order so that you're able to bring out a very clear explanation. Okay. When you write results, it is always better not to give references when you write results, because the references is from your own statistical work and not somebody else's work. So normally when we write results, we will not give references. Okay. References can be given in the discussions part. Now, what is the scaffolding when we write results? Okay, so that means this should be the pattern. First is, what is the key result or what is the outcome that you're expecting? A statistical analysis saying that you have used a particular statistical test, and then you use a visual representation, that is tables or graphs can be used. I have a small thing on tables and figures, but I will not go through it because it will take up too much time. But when we use tables and figures, we need to make sure that proper headings and all are given. Like you should give a table number, there must be a table title, column heading, row heading, legends. All these things have to be provided when you have tables. Otherwise, please don't do tables. If any of this is missing, it will reflect very poorly on you. Okay. Now going on to the next part, which is discussion. So introduction, methods and materials and methods, results and discussion. So we saw results. Now we're going to see discussion. Now, what is discussion? Discussion is analysis and interpretation. That is, that interpretation part is called discussion. So, do the results relate to the original question? Meaning, is your objective and the analysis, is it matching? Does your data support your hypothesis? You can discuss the weaknesses and the discrepancies that can arise. Then is any further research required? That is, normally we write scope for future research. All that can be brought in under the discussion section. Okay. Your discussion should correspond with your results. So in your analysis, where you have written your statistical test and you have come out with a result, you have to discuss what is the result, not discuss something else. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is there must be a correlation between your results and your discussion. Okay, so nothing new should be introduced in the discussion. Do not imply anything. Whatever your results state, only that you must discuss, not something new. So here for discussions, we have another scaffolding. So you see here one pattern in which you can write a discussion. So what was the problem? What did you find? You can critically analyze it. That is, you can give its strengths and weaknesses. Then what future research can be done? And you can just write a few concluding lines. So with this, you finish your discussion. Okay, I'll skip this slide. Coming to the conclusion. Okay, so your conclusion would tell you, give a whole crisp analysis. Now, many times, people read only the conclusion part and not the in between the your research paper. They read the conclusion to see what did you actually find. So your conclusion should be a clear justification. It can have global and specific conclusions. Suggestions for future research can also be given over here. Now, here you see another scaffolding, that is 5 steps, 5 paragraphs to write your conclusion. Now, many times what happens is we do not have time and we quickly write some lines. We just take and we put it together and we write the conclusion. But the conclusion is so important that you have to spend some time to write the conclusion. 6 paragraphs to write the conclusion. 5 paragraphs. First, a summary statement, just summarizing all that you have done. 1 paragraph. What did your study find? What were the findings from your study? What is the novelty? What is it new in your paper? What is the novelty? What is the scope for future research? And any policy and managerial implications. That is, because you did this study, who is it going to help? That means when we conduct a research or when we write a research paper, it should help somebody. There must be a managerial implication. It should help managers, or it should help an institution, or it should help individuals. So who is it going to help, and in what way is it going to help? So your conclusion is so important that many people first read only the conclusion and then decide whether they want to read the rest of your paper. So again, 5 paragraphs for you to write your conclusion. Okay. So this is called the IMRAD format. It's called your paper, your way. That is, you have the freedom to write the introduction. Why did you do this study? It will motivate people to read your paper. Materials and methods. How did you do it? This will give people the ability to replicate your paper. Replicate means use the same method and they will do it. Then results, that is, what did they find? You will be able to share data. And then what does this mean? Discussion. So give suggestions, solutions. If there were problems, your discussion section will give you solutions to the problem. So how long should your manuscript be? So this is one big question all of you may have. Now I've written my core paper. If you remember that the 3 sections that I told you, we have done with the core part. Now, how long should your manuscript be? Okay, so your title should be short and informative. An abstract, you have to check. They will say only, some people will say 150 words, some will say 300 words. So, how much words you have to check with the journal. Your introduction can be 1 to 2 pages. Methods can be 2 to 3 pages. This is just a rough indication. You don't have to go by this. Most journals will give you the word limit, maximum word limit. They will tell you it should be 3,000 words or 6,000 words or 15,000 words. So please check the word limit and then write your paper. This is just a very broad indication of how many pages your manuscript should be. You need to format your manuscript. Okay, when it comes to once you've written everything, you need to check the word limit, text alignment, that is whether it is left alignment or you have to justify. Have you included all the required sections? What is the language requirement? Is it US or UK English? So many times we use both because we don't know which one is which. So sometimes we tend to use both, but there has to be uniformity. Then have you inserted the tables and figures at the correct location? For example, you would have written in the table below, but the table is not below, the table is above, or the table comes in the next page. So it's very important where you're including tables and all that. And then referencing styles. There are different styles of referencing, the APA, MLA format and all that. So this again you have to check before you write your paper. Now, your ideas in a manuscript has to be well organized. Okay, so this is called an argument matrix, where all your ideas are arranged logically and sequentially. I'll explain what this means. So this here are the 4 sections of your manuscript: introduction, methods, results, and discussion, followed by conclusion. So suppose you have 3 objectives. You're dealing with 3 objectives. If you're dealing with only one objective, no problem, because throughout you will deal only with the first objective or with one idea. But if you're dealing with more than one idea or more than one objective, you need to pay some attention to this. So first, when you're writing your introduction, you write an introduction to idea 1, 2, and 3. And then go on to methods. There again, you address 1, 2, and 3. That is your idea or your objective 1, 2, and 3. And then you go to your results. Again, you address in the same order 1, 2, and 3. Not 3, 2, and then 1, or 3 and 2 together and then 1 separately. No, there has to be that logical flow. Then, even when you give a discussion, you flow in the same order. And when you write your conclusion, you flow in the same order. When you write a manuscript, it is so important if you have to maintain a logical flow. Now, sometimes what happens is, let's say, for example, 2 of us, say one faculty from your college and myself, we write a paper. I'm busy one day, you're busy one day. So what we'll say, I will write introduction, methods, you write results and discussion. We will split the job. But what happens when we split the job? Is there that logical sequence? Is it there? Because 2 different people are writing, 2 different styles of writing, 2 different styles of English. There can be chaos. So when you write a paper, there has to be this sequence and this flow you have to maintain. It's so important to do a spell check. There cannot be spelling mistakes in your manuscript. Grammar check, punctuation check, sentence structure. All of this is so important when it comes to writing a manuscript. And if you're going to submit it in a Scopus or a Web of Science journal, if there is a spelling mistake, that's it. Your paper will be absolutely ignored. And it's not worth it. As a researcher, we cannot make spelling mistakes. There has to be proper formatting. There is a line spacing, the font choice of font, all that goes a long way. So when it comes to your publishing journey as such, you complete a manuscript, okay? You select a journal, read the aims and scope of a journal. So suppose a journal is about culture, then your paper should be about culture. Suppose the journal is about, or suppose your paper is about teaching pedagogies, then you need to choose a journal which is about teaching pedagogies. Okay, read the author guidelines. What type of an article? Types of article is a separate topic by itself. What type of an article you are giving? When you submit your journal, they will screen, there will be a peer review process, and then there will be that journal decision. So to summarize over here, you need to identify 2 or 3 key central messages. That is, what is that one objective? What is that one research question that you have? And then we saw the structure, IMRAD format. We saw that there has to be an argumentative matrix where you fit ideas logically. There has to be editing and reviewing. So this was the core part of your paper. Now, going on to the next part, ma'am, can I take another 10 minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can, ma'am.
Right. Okay, ma'am. So I'll quickly rush through this. Just as much, just as how important your core part of your paper is, that is the IMRAD. Just how important that is. These 3 parts also are very, very important. Your title, your abstract, and your keywords. I will not take too much of time here. I will skip some of the slides. And now, your title must consist of these 3 components. An area of interest, what is your focus, and what are the outcomes? Let me give you some examples. Take, for example, this topic over here. It's talking about barriers to internet banking adoption. Okay, so the area of interest is internet banking. The focus is on barriers. So 3 areas should be there in a title. Now let's see another one. Problems. We're talking about corporate partnerships. What are the problems that are there? What is the outcome of the study? Some lessons that we have learned. Like this, I've just taken some examples. I'll skip through this and now these are some steps in framing a title to your manuscript. We normally do this as a workshop activity where you have to sit and write. But for today, when you want to frame your title, now what happens is, remember I told you when we are writing our manuscript, we write our title at the very end, not at the beginning itself. You need to write a small paragraph. Let me show you how that is done. Okay. You need to write a small paragraph. First, answer some basic question. What is the objective? What were your methods? What were the results? Write a small paragraph. From the small paragraph, you identify and list some keywords. And from those keywords, you write a smaller sentence. So here again, from that big paragraph, you made it into a smaller paragraph. Now, with the 3 lines that you have, you write one long sentence. So this is what I did with one of my research papers. And then I created a title by deleting extra words and so on. And I came to the final title, The Role of Technological Innovations in Strengthening Retail Customer Experience. So this final title I gained by doing these 5 steps. By writing one small crux of a story, then you reduce it again, then you reduce it into one single sentence, then you remove all these extra sentences. Like for example, one very popular way we use is a study on. This is very outdated. You will not find indexed journals having a study on. So, or factors influencing. They don't use such words. So all those words they remove, and you have your title. If you want, you can add a subtitle to your title. There are different kinds of title. You can have a descriptive title. The same title, I have written it in 3 different ways. It can be descriptive, it can be declarative, it can be interrogative. So if you see how it is written in 3 different ways, the style today is the interrogative style, that is asking a question. So it gives people a curiosity to read your paper. Do technological innovation strengthen retail customer experience? So people will want to know what you have spoken about in your paper. The declarative mode of writing a title is also very, very popular. Descriptive is old-fashioned. Normally, we don't follow it these days. A declarative or an interrogative. Just a moment. Just a moment. So some points that you can remember: your title has to be concise. It should not be very long. No abbreviations, slangs, all these things should not be there. And check the journal guidelines. Journal will always tell you how many words that you have to use. So these are just some examples I have of titles that can be interesting. I'll go on to the next part, which is an abstract. I will skip these pages and go to a scaffolding. Now, this here is a very, very easy way for you to write an abstract. Very simple, easy way for you to write an abstract. Now, what happens is, in most of our conferences, they ask you to give an abstract first and then give the paper. But you can never give an abstract without completing your paper. It is always good to complete your paper and then give an abstract. So that is why if you see in the order, abstract comes in the end, because then you will be able to give a better view of what you have actually done. You need to have 5 sentences, or let's say 5 points you need to address, 2 sentences each. 10 sentences, your abstract is done. Many times what happens when we have to write an abstract, we take 2 lines from introduction, some 2 lines from discussion, some 2 lines from conclusion, and we write an abstract. That is not how it should be done. 5 issues that you need to look into: significance, the description, basic methods, the methods, protocols, what method you use, what is a major or unique finding, conclusion and implications. Now let's see. So when you write, let me show you another example. Now this is one research paper that I had written. I had written with Dr. Chinnamuthu, who was there with you last week. We have written a paper, and this is how our abstract is like. So the first few lines talk about the background. Okay, a background or the context or why I did this paper. The next few lines is the purpose, or what did I do? What was my objective? The next few lines talks about my methodology. How did I do it? I interviewed so many people. There was a structured questionnaire circulated through Google Forms, and we used a method that is the structural equation modeling was done. Then what were my findings? What did the findings show? And what are its implications? So if you can address these 5 points very simply in 2 sentences each, you have finished your abstract. That's how simple it is to write an abstract. Now, some journals ask you to give a structured abstract. The same thing, you have to write it in paragraphs like this. You have a structured abstract. So here you have the same topic, one as one full paragraph and one is as a structured abstract. So nowadays we have what is called as a graphical abstract. Today, infographics is becoming the in thing. Everything is presented in the form of infographics, pictures and all that. That is how people like to see things. So even in research, they're bringing in a graphical abstract like this, where you can, if you can be very creative and if you can present your research work in the form of pictures, you have a graphical abstract. The last one is keywords. It's very important you use proper keywords because it is used to search articles. You can use words that are not there in your title. Maybe some variables that you have used in your analysis, those words can be used. So this here is my last slide. 3 sections in writing a manuscript. The first part is your title, your author and your affiliations. Always give credit to your institution. The name of your institution would carry weightage. So give the name of your institution, your abstract and keywords. Then you have the core part of your manuscript, introduction, methods, results, and discussion, the IMRAD format. And then section 3, which is acknowledgements, references, annexures, all these things can be added. So with that, I finish my presentation for you today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was very neat and clear presentation so that any participants can understand things better. And the concept of scaffolding, where what should be there in each paragraph, was really impressive and very useful for the prospective researchers. Thank you so much, ma'am. If participants have any query, you can ask, ma'am. You can type it in the chat box.
Yes, thank you, Sumati. It's nice to see your picture there. Nice to see you. So I'd like to challenge you all today. If you have written a paper using the scaffolding, it's very, very simple. Everything has just 5 paragraphs or 6 paragraphs. Once you have done your research work, you have your review of literature collected, you can easily write and complete a paper. So I'd like to give you a challenge to write a paper in the next 1 week.
Ma'am, shall we close the session because there were no
Yes.
clarifications asked
Yes,
in the
sure,
chat
ma'am,
box?
sure. Yes.
Requesting Deepika or Priya to formally propose the vote of thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to propose the vote of thanks for today's session. I would like to thank the Almighty for making today's session a success. I extend my gratitude to our speaker, Ms. Tabitha Durai, for taking the time to be part of the FDP series on journal writing and for sharing her knowledge and insights. I thank all the participants who have taken the time out to attend today's session. A big thank you to our secretary and associate secretary for their constant guidance and support. My special thanks to our principal and vice principal for giving us the encouragement we always need. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Dr. S.T. Deepa, our technical team, and our internal training team for all the support and coordination. Once again, I thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Deepika, can you post the feedback link?
Yes, ma'am.